Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I wanted to discuss the question: is Solana still the best investment of this cycle? And probably what we will have seen so far, and maybe what a lot of you probably already know, is that at least from like a blue chip crypto perspective, Solana has definitely like pretty far and away been the best investment of the cycle. It's done really well. I think some of this is maybe due to speculation and hype, but also like a lot of it is just due to fundamental growth and improvement and just like better stuff happening in the Solana ecosystem, right? And so obviously when that does happen, price tends to appreciate. So anyway, we want to discuss that a little bit today and see if we can come up with at least a relatively satisfying answer of if there is one. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So starting out, what we can see today, looking at the crypto bubbles, is that it is kind of an overall red day. We have seen, several days of pumping going on, and so the fact that we're kind of at a red day overall isn't really all too surprising. What is a little bit surprising, at least in my mind, is we do see both memes leading the way up and down, which I think is kind of funny. Popcat's kind of the exception here. I would say most of the other big memes that we've seen are all definitely kind of heading down today. So maybe not totally unexpected, right? Again, memes have been doing incredibly well over the past 2 to 3 weeks. So this is something that, maybe is healthy for kind of the ecosystem and what we're seeing. One thing I did want to show specifically, though, is if we look at kind of returns on the year, we can see that a lot of the top gainers here are Solana coins, right? Like we can see Bonk, Mog, you see Helium has been a pretty big winner. Solana itself, like there's obviously quite a number of these coins here that are Solana ecosystem coins, which is really quite interesting overall. As we look around, the ones that have won, they've won really big. These are kind of obviously meme coins, but we do actually have like real projects like Helium. I mean, Helium, in my opinion, is probably the shining star of like DePIN and what crypto could do for an industry that currently kind of is like an old legacy industry with like consolidated and entrenched like competitors. Helium could completely shake that up, and so I remain incredibly bullish on Helium, and this is something that is happening on Solana, right? So that's always really good to see. Looking at the chart of Solana, I wanted to start comparing it to Ethereum, because what we can see is since the beginning of the year, Solana has outperformed Ethereum. Solana's up about 50% compared to Ethereum's 10%. Especially if we look at kind of the recent fall down in the market, Solana actually has held up better than Ethereum this year. Like even in a period of like kind of a sustained downtrend, Solana has still held up really quite well. And if we get rid of Ethereum now, because we'll be looking at other things, if we look and we can see like Solana's really never like sustainably broke below this like 130 level. Obviously we had a couple days in here where it did, but if you look like, we see WEEX down and sometimes, down and back up and all this type of stuff. But from an overall perspective here, like we actually have not seen a sustained break below 130 that's like actually carried some momentum. So 130 is kind of a point at which Solana has very strong support, which in my opinion kind of leads me to believe that this may potentially be kind of the new floor for the coin, right? It's made it through kind of a lot of FUD. Obviously, the whole FTX thing was a major hit on Solana, which is part of the reason why it's done so well, kind of coming back up. But overall, I mean, things have been looking, really good, just kind of from a technical perspective in the chart. We also, I kind of took away some of the most satisfying part of the Solana chart, which happened actually prior to the year, where we saw kind of this massive run up. Obviously, kind of the beginning of the year has been a little bit less interesting, but seeing this level of consolidation up here after a run up like this, I mean, this is, in my opinion, very good news, and this bodes really well for kind of the project and the ecosystem overall. What we can see kind of in the Bollinger Bands is, it is starting to tighten up a little bit. We've seen particularly kind of in this area and in this area, the Bollinger Bands can kind of spread pretty wide. We have seen this start to tighten up a little bit, which means we could potentially be seeing another move here pretty soon. But overall, it's really hard to say. Given where we're at kind of on the short term, we did kind of regress towards this mean here. We have kind of popped up a little bit, but overall, like, we're not kind of running on the top of the Bollinger Band like we were here, which kind of would have indicated a pullback. Things just kind of look pretty stable overall. Nothing that I'm seeing, at least right now, within the like Solana chart looks like we're primed for like some major pop off event. It's overall just kind of especially recently, had a lot of like kind of consolidation in this area, kind of ranging between like 130 to like the 160 range. Nothing too crazy or special going on. However, just given what we've seen in the past, like we do know that Solana has the ability to really kind of take off, whenever it wants. And I do think as we start to see some of these more bullish events happen within the crypto ecosystem, Solana surely will follow. Ultimately, particularly with the level of like VC investment and interest within Solana, I think there's kind of a general sense that nobody's doing anything crazy until the election. And so again, it would not surprise me if we just continue to see ranging within this kind of upper and lower bound up until the election. Now, obviously, we've looked at the technical analysis. Things are looking pretty good here. If you are wanting to trade Solana, you can do it on Margex. You can trade up to 50x leverage. Obviously, if you're playing the ranging like this, it can be really, really nice just because you kind of know where the highs and lows are going to be, and you can kind of trade accordingly. If that is something that you're interested in, please feel free to check out the link in my description. Also, if you're not really interested in leverage trading, I do have a link to WEEX, which is another exchange. They do both leverage trading as well as just normal spot trading. So if you don't want to trade with leverage, but you do want to trade the market, that is an option there as well. So, but what we can see kind of from a technical perspective is that Solana's held up relatively well. So the next thing that I want to look at here is kind of some Solana analytics and look at kind of how are things looking within kind of the Solana ecosystem from a fundamental perspective. And fundamentally, things honestly look pretty decent. What we can see is the success rate is kind of hovered at or above kind of the 90% range ever since like, kind of like late June, or I guess early and mid June. So, that's obviously good. One of the like bigger claims of the Solana ecosystem has been the uptime as well as the transaction success rate. And so, I do think we'd want to see this success rate continue to go up. I do think there's kind of some more work to do there, but it is kind of trending in the right direction. I do wish that we kind of had the ability to see a little bit further in the past, because I do think, we kind of would see more of a dramatic rise. But what we can see also is, with transactions per second, we're sitting at close to about 3,000. Not really where we need to be, I would say. And part of this could be is just because the overall ecosystem isn't really needing the space. And so, it maybe could scale to 5 or 6 or 8 or 10,000 transactions per second, but there's only 3,000. And so, that's kind of, why it's kind of capped here. However, there is something to be shown here on the Solana network fees. We've seen a really, really like pretty decent run up in fees, which for the Solana network is actually kind of like a pretty good thing. And I would say possibly even a healthy thing, as long as fees don't turn into like Ethereum levels of like, obstructive to like just interacting on the ecosystem. But this to me indicates that if fees are going up, there's obviously more congestion in the network and the blockchain. And what we can see right now is they're only doing about 3,000 transactions per second. Obviously, it is Solana's goal to get to 1 million transactions per second. And they want to bring the NASDAQ on chain and all this type of stuff. Like they want to essentially be able to handle massive throughput. And so far, like we're not even close to 1 million transactions per second, right? Now, again, the chain is still in active development, so it's not to say that we can't get there, but that is something that I think we want to be looking to see. Again, like I said, I wish the chart kind of had more history, because what we can see is even towards the beginning of June, we were sitting at kind of sub 2,000 transactions per second. So we are seeing some growth there. Again, how much of this is from demand and rather than capacity is hard to say, but based on what we're seeing on active activity on the market or on the blockchain, things do look pretty good overall, right? Like things are looking good. Things are kind of looking healthy for kind of a growing ecosystem. And it looks like, people are showing some more interest in what we're seeing here. The next thing I wanted to go that kind of indicates that is I wanted to kind of look at Solana futures open interest. So what we can see is we actually have not hit a new all-time high in open interest like we have with Bitcoin. This is the CME Bitcoin futures. But what we can see from Solana is it actually has held a pretty strong level, even though we've kind of been spending this time ranging. Pre-November, we had $300 million in open interest. And now, like as of today, we're sitting at, 2.3. So what is that, an 8x increase? We had an all-time high here of, what was this? Over 3. So, a 10x increase from 4 months before, which, is kind of ridiculous, obviously. And so this is something that I do think we'll want to continue to see. Looking at this over kind of a long enough period of time, we have seen massive interest kind of growing in Solana futures. And so this is something that, I would expect to continue to see grow, and we want to see grow as Solana continues to grow and the ecosystem starts to mature, stuff like that. Looking at kind of more of a fundamental perspective again, I wanted to kind of look at the Solana ecosystem and looking at it by kind of like top coins by market cap, just because I think that's the easiest way to look at it. But this is essentially a really good indicator of what is developing on the network. There's a little bit showing here on Solana Analytics where we can go down to active programs, and we can see, that they were about last August. They were actually, no, this was this August. They're about 1,200, and now we're at about 1,500. So again, I wish we had more of like a history so we could see trend lines here. But even in, just what is this, 2 months, a little over 2 months, we've gone up by almost 20% in 2 months. Like that's really, really good growth. And when we start to see, like, these aren't just like random contracts that people are, or random programs that people are pulling on chain. Like, they're actually programs with like decent volume. We can see here, SPL tokens continue to go up, NFTs kind of, being stagnant, wallets continuing to go up, new accounts continuing to go up overall. Like, things are looking, pretty good overall here. And we can see on the Solana ecosystem, we've got market caps to kind of show it, right? Obviously Tether, this is kind of on all chains, same with USDC, so this is not, exclusive to Solana. We can see Solana itself obviously doing quite well. Chainlink has kind of integrated or interacts with the Solana ecosystem as well. But then we have like Solana native tokens, right? Like Dog with Hat, Bonk, Popcat. We can see a lot of like the really big winners on Solana so far have been meme coins, and I think that's just because kind of the affordability of the network, right? If you're trying to trade a $100 meme coin on Solana, that's totally doable because the fees are basically negligible, right? But like if you're trying to trade meme coins on Ethereum last bull run, you're gonna be paying $40 in gas to buy your $100 token or your $100 of tokens, right? And so that's something that obviously really sucks. And Solana has definitely made this like very doable, which is why I think we've seen memes do really so well on this ecosystem. What we haven't seen yet is like, the biggest market cap on Solana is still only $2.5 billion. So this is a very, very, very young ecosystem from what we can see here. And so what I'm imagining to see is, we'll continue to see a lot of these market caps continue to run up. I've already talked about Helium. I mean, if Helium can do what it says it's going to do, I mean, we could be seeing $50 billion market caps on this or more, in my opinion, just because they're taking on a telecom model, which those companies are massively valuable. And so if they can start taking pieces away from them, like that obviously provides a ton of value. The other thing we can see here is, the graph. This is an AI token. We've got the Pith network, Jupiter. This is, obviously, like, I would say probably one of, or if not the biggest exchange on Solana. We've got Wormhole. Again, more memes all the way kind of littered throughout here. Radium is another like kind of trading thing on Solana. We can see like a lot of like very, very varied projects building within the Solana ecosystem. Tons of things going on here. See, the basic attention token. This is another, somewhat real world use case type token. Also down here, we've got Hive Mapper, which is another DPIN. Up here, I am just realizing that I totally missed it. We've got Render, which is like the biggest DPIN project on Solana, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of like, it seems to me that Solana's really hit it off with like, and potentially found a fit with like the DPIN projects. A lot of people like Render moved from Ethereum to Solana. Helium moved from their own blockchain to Solana. So something about what Solana is doing is clearly desirable for the DPIN projects. And given the like potential that I think DPIN has, even if Solana only becomes the DPIN chain, I don't think that's right. I think, Solana will continue to also be the meme chain too. But even if they're just the DPIN chain, like that in itself is like still really, really valuable, potentially, maybe looking a little bit further afield, but that's something that could provide a ton of value. Couple that with memes as well. And, I think you've got a pretty strong recipe for a chain that can last and kind of stand the test of time, and also to continue to accrue a ton of value within its ecosystem. One thing that I mentioned in a video, a couple of videos back, was about a conference that I'd been at recently and kind of discussing like, is the Solana like layer 1 centric approach versus like Ethereum's like layer 2 centric approach, like which is the better option? Something that people made the claim of on Solana is, since they are kind of keeping these projects at the layer 1, they continue to get the fees from the increased activity of these projects. And so if they can continue to hold these projects on Solana, this becomes value accretive, right? And all of those fees and all of the like activity and interest and all this stuff is running through Solana, which again, makes the network more valuable. So that's something that I wanted to point out. To answer the question, is Solana still the best investment of the cycle? It's hard to say, right? I mean, obviously Solana's already run up multiple hundreds of % in the past year. And so, we do have that to think about. The support that we've seen kind of on the lower end of Solana's price range recently does look really, really strong. And, I'm sure if we're looking at like just strict returns, Solana is not the best investment, right? I'm sure there's going to be some micro cap that's like, $10 or hasn't even been created yet. That's going to go run to $1 billion market cap, and it's going to make, a whole bunch of people a whole ton of money. But as far as like realistic, like established projects that are kind of within the ecosystem right now, I do think Solana does have a very good chance at being kind of and remaining to be the best investment of the cycle. I think a lot of it is going to kind of play out as Ethereum layer 2 start to develop their vision a little bit more, and just seeing kind of what sticks better with the crypto audience, right? Do people like the kind of the layer 1 centric approach of Solana, or do people kind of like the flexibility of Ethereum layer 2s? And also probably more importantly than that, just what do the builders like? So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on where Solana's at, what it can do kind of going into the future, and what its potential could be for this remaining cycle. If you do have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please do leave me a comment in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to everything, so if you have anything you want me to see or want my thoughts on, just feel free to leave a comment. Also, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really, really does help me out, both with growing my channel as well as getting me pushed further into the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully other people can see this information as well, and they'll also find it equally useful. And so that's kind of my goal there. Otherwise, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.